Okay. Well, Kurt, I don't know if you had a chance to look at my bio or not, but just real quick, I'll give you a quick thumbnail. I'm semi-retired. I've got almost 40 years of business background in accounting and finance. I punched my CPA ticket almost 35 years ago. Actually, 35 years ago, I guess this year. And so I've been through everything from Fortune 100 companies like Disney and PepsiCo to small startups, raising capital for different projects and things like that. I've done mostly consulting my professional career, although I did spend some time with what was then the Big Eight. Now I call them the Final Four, and mostly in an auditing and consulting role. A lot of the industries that I specialized in was real estate development, commercial banking, lending, particularly for real estate development projects. And that's where a lot of my consulting has come in, and some of my investment banking background has been largely involved in real estate development. So when it comes to doing projects like this, even though this is a little one, I've done much, much bigger. I cut my teeth on a little project over in Paris, France called Euro Disney. And that's where I got my introduction to real estate development. So I didn't start small and get big. I started big and worked small. But I've been involved in real estate development with the KFC International Division of PepsiCo. And of course, in my consulting and investment banking experience, I've worked with many projects up in the hundreds of millions of dollars in scope. And so this one's just a little one for me, but it's a personal one. And so I'm kind of partial to it and looking forward to seeing this come together and work.
Great, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. I didn't see your bio, so appreciate it.
Okay. I think they're forwarding it to you right now.
Yeah,
so I guess, to kind of kick this off, if Kurt or either James or Toby would like to ask any questions, that kind of gets me started, and then I just, it's kind of like the ever ready bunny. You just kind of wind me up, and then I go. So if you've got a question or two you want to ask, we can do that. Otherwise, I can pull up the screen and just kind of walk you through a back of the napkin, as I call it, term sheet that kind of walks through the project, and we're looking at numbers as we're doing that. Either way, we could do that. Which would you prefer?
Whatever format works for you guys. I'm just trying to get up to speed on the deal and get as much, do as much due diligence as I can at this point, obviously.
All right. Well, let me just kind of walk you through right now the thumbnail, and then we can pull up any spreadsheets that we need to walk through and take a look at that.
Right.
And I want to preface this with, Kurt, I don't know what your background is in real estate yet, but if you look at this deal and you say, Beach, you structured this all wrong, I want to do it this way and this way and this way, I am totally open. I'm more excited about seeing the project move forward than I am having the project look a certain way, if that makes sense. And so I'll tell you how I've kind of set it up, but like I said, we can take it apart and re-engineer it. So the bottom line is this: we have a small subdivision, just a couple of data points of history. This subdivision was originally platted and recorded 50 years ago. And why it didn't come to full development in that 50 years, I don't know. I don't think anybody lives there that goes back that far. But if you look at the dates on some of the documents that I think I included in there, maybe there's some other documents I need to send, but the original recording and platting and recording took place 50 years ago. What they did is they sold off 11 of the original lots. So it was originally platted and recorded for 53 lots. They've sold those lots and they've built homes on those lots just as intended when the development was first planned. If I showed you pictures of the homes, you would look, they're very uniform. So it's almost as though somebody started the subdivision and then stopped in the middle of building it. Like I said, there's yeah.
I'm confused. Sorry, you said the subdivision had originally like 50 lots, right?
53 lots, I believe it was.
And then
so
you
there's
said,
now 42 remaining.
Oh, okay, that's why I got confused.
There's
So
42 remaining.
sold.
Of the 42.
Well, I was confused about how many were sold and developed.
There were 11 lots that were sold and homes were built.
Okay, I had it backwards. Okay, now I'm with you.
Yeah, so we're down to 42 lots that have been actually platted and recorded in that subdivision. But because we got to start over with the engineering, as I've spoken with the city, and they say, yeah, it's kind of old and we're going to have to start over the process, in terms of getting city approvals and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have the engineers replat the map and add an additional, I think, 6 to 8 lots. So we're going to be back upwards around 50 lots when we're done. And there's room to do that because there was a big chunk of the development, and I think you'll see it in the plan if you look at it, that says, it's undeveloped or lots not assigned or something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what it says, but effectively says this has not been platted, it hasn't been engineered for lots and lots added. And so in looking at that with the engineers, I essentially basically said, I'd like to see if we can come up with a few more lots and some premium lots at that. So that's what I'm saying. In the plan, you'll see there's actually 42 lots remaining that are platted and recorded, and then I'm talking about 50 lots. And so you're like, going, where's the difference? And that's because there's some unplatted land in the development.
And has that new plan already been approved by the county? I mean, are they, because sometimes they'll come back and say you need different storage or retention or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's actually been recorded by the city and the county. I guess I should say it's recorded in the county. So from that standpoint, no, they're not going to come back and say, you got to make the lots this big or whatever. They're going to stay the same. It's the new lots that I'm saying 6 to 8, depending on, again, what the county or the city approves there. The real issue in terms of starting over has to do with getting the approvals with the city to go ahead and build, go ahead and do the infrastructure and go ahead with the project. But as I've shown Toby and James, the city ordinance that governs this project, you guys are going to laugh because where are you from, Kurt? Denver? Are you in the same area as James and Toby?
I am. I'm Colorado native.
So
yeah.
When I show you this, and I should go get it and show you because you'll all laugh, but it's literally 2/3 of a page. That's the city ordinance that governs the approval and the development of this project. Basically, in a nutshell, it says if the utilities company are happy with how you've stubbed into the utilities, you'll get approval. That's it. There's no building codes out here. Not that we're not going to follow, good building standards, of course, and good codes, but we just don't have the red tape that a lot of, major cities or others, subdivisions of major or suburbs of major cities have. And so it's going to make the project obviously a lot less expensive and easier to get approval. There's no public commentary needed or public comment hearings or any of those kinds of things. It's just a straight up, if you can connect the 2 lines into the utilities, we'll approve it. It's that basic. So any other questions about the subdivision at this point before I move on to infrastructure? Okay, I'll just keep right on going then. So I do have a infrastructure budget there attached to that project development plan. It came from the engineers. As I have reviewed it, there's a couple of things that will influence this budget. Number one, the engineers did not realize when they put this estimate together that the sewer system was probably already complete. somebody back in 1986 had attempted to start development in this subdivision, and they actually punched out the sewer system. And it's actually there. You can walk on the property and see all the sewer covers, you know, going around the subdivision. Even though there's no streets, there's no curbs and gutters or anything like that, you can walk the property. It looks like raw land, and you can walk around and you can literally see every place, you know, where there was a sewer cover put in. So they've actually laid the pipe. It is
How old is that?
How old is that?
When was that done?
I believe it was 1986. So even that was a long time ago. We're talking 36 years ago.
Yeah.
But I asked the city about that, and they said that they believe that it was built to the city standards. In fact, it was made bigger than what the city requires today. And so I don't think there's a problem there. Based on the conversation that I had with the city, the engineers, not knowing that the sewer was complete, put a budget in there for the sewer. And so I believe that we're actually going to save some money there on that sewer budget line item. I've left it in there just to be conservative, so that if this pencils out financially, then we've got some savings and there's just that much more profit to divvy up, because that's about an extra 100 grand, I think, that could go to the bottom line. The city engineers fee, or not the city engineer, excuse me, the engineers fee for doing this, because we do have to go back and re-engineer the project. They are going to do the rough property line, the general stakes as a part of the initial development of this, and remark those. So they're basically remarking all of the lots. But as far as the city, as far as the engineers go to get the approval for the city that we can connect the utilities, they're going to have to re-engineer the project. If you look at what we have there, and what we have is from the county recorded documents, I believe they've obviously got the streets, they've got the curbs and gutters marked, they've got the easements marked, and I believe they have maybe that sewer line, if I remember correctly. I'd have to pull it out and look at it. But they don't have, you know, electrical lines, water lines. They don't have, what else are we putting in?
Cable.
Somebody said they might have put internet in already, of all things, but I'll have to double check. But gas lines. But anyway, all the line items you basically see there need to not only be installed, of course, but they need to have the engineering documents drawn up and completed. And so one of the missing variables in terms of that is the actual engineering cost. Now, because it's a small subdivision and it's already been pretty much planned out, I can't imagine the engineers charging a whole lot of money to do that. I mean, if they charge more than about 25 grand, I'm going to be pretty upset. But anyway, that still has to be done, obviously. And then, of course, the infrastructure work according to that budget. And that is a recent budget. It was done up in February this year, so it is including 2022 estimated costs. So that's the infrastructure budget, the infrastructure plan. The timing of this, of course, is I'm assuming that the actual infrastructure work will start almost right after the engineering is finished, which I hope would be fairly quickly after we close. I'm essentially on the critical path, setting about a 4-month window for doing infrastructure. There's just not a lot there. It's a small subdivision. We're just going to be punching out kind of a big U like this on the subdivision. As far as street and gutters, it's probably a total of 8 blocks long, maybe max. So in that U total. So we're not talking about a lot of street, not talking about a lot of curb and gutter going in. And then, of course, punching in the rest of the utilities, stubbing those in so that we have buildable lots. I'll probably work with the infrastructure contractors to structure or time or, set up the dominoes, as it were, to do all this work over that 4 to 6 month period so that we are hopefully selling the buildable lots or pre-selling the buildable lots as we go. And so, maybe timing some of those lot sales with some of the infrastructure work. I'm just trying to see if we can, and that's just more for managing cash flow purposes. Not so much to, manage the profitability of it, although maybe we can squeeze a little more profit out that way too. I don't know. But, say for, just for discussion purposes, let's assume that we're going to put all the infrastructure in before we start building the first house. Okay. I intend to start pre-selling these lots, pre-selling the homes actually that we're going to build, because our whole goal is to not just sell the lot, but our goal is to build the home too. And so we're going to start pre-selling homes and lots probably just as soon as we close on the acquisition. In other words, we'll have our marketing going, and we're probably going to do some of the marketing with Toby and James here. And we've got a specific niche market that we're looking for that we think will sell very quickly. Just to give you a case study on that, Steve McBee, who is the largest real estate developer in the state of Missouri, just finished selling a project that he did out here in this neighborhood. I don't know exactly how many lots he sold. When I first heard about the project about 6 months ago, I was led to understand that he was selling about 100 lots, maybe a little bit more. And these lots that he was selling are premium lots that he was selling for, it was basically a 3-acre estate for $100,000. And so he was selling at the very top of what this market will bear. Just to give you a case in point, right now, subdivisions like this are selling for about $10,000 to $15,000 an acre. Okay, and I know that sounds really low compared to Denver, but and what we're pulling out of that is a lot that basically will sell 25 to 35 or more $35,000 or more. Still very inexpensive lots. These are going to be affordable homes. What Steve McBee was selling, though, coming back to this case study, was he was selling 3-acre lots for $100,000. In other words, he was selling it for $33,000 an acre. Okay. And, again, subdivisions are at 10 to 15. So he was selling it for 3 times or more, three times what the typical subdivision would go for. He had about 100 of them. He sold through them in less than 6 months. So what that tells me is that, now that's a slightly different niche, but it tells me that the overall demand is still there. We
similar
don't
area,
have,
similar areas. Would you compare that to yours as a similar? I'm just kind of curious about a couple things. One, why he thought those values were triple. Was it on a lake? Is it on top of a hill? What, was it the same town? What is it?
Farmland.
And then
it's all farmland. It was just literally, as the crow flies, a mile from our subdivision.
Gotcha. That's
and it was just raw farmland that he got converted to. It was green belt land. He got the county to approve the development of these estates, which often they'll do. Green belt, is 5 acres.
Yep.
He got it down to 3 acres, and the county approved it. And then he sold through it. Now, again, these are probably going to be custom homes that are going to get built. I want to be able to get out there and meet the people that bought these properties, and possibly build some of their homes for them. But these are going to be people that are building $750,000 McMansions and above, right?
And are you working with on your property? Are you already working with a builder, or you already kind of got an idea?
We are the builder.
Okay.
Yeah, we are the builder. And we're doing affordable housing. We're right in town. We're on the north end of the actual town itself. So we're within the city limits as opposed to being outside in the county. If somebody in other words, what I'm basically doing is saying, okay, we want affordable housing. We're going to be in that I don't want to say first home purchase arena. It'll probably be a second home, as people are stepping up from that first home purchase, and they now got a couple of kids, and they're growing, and so they're essentially moving up in their level or their niche of inventory, that the kind of inventory. We're going to be doing something that's probably going to be along the lines of ultimately, the 4 and 5 bedroom, 2-3 bath kind of thing, depending, homes that are probably between 25 and 3,000 square feet. We're looking at possibly putting them on a basement. Maybe that's where they expand and grow into the future. And so the top is a 3-2 and the bottom might be also a 2-1 or 2-2, and big family room kind of thing, or walkout basement concept. So very conventional, very traditional. The kind of plans that are designed to be a lower cost house. In other words, there's not going to be a lot of these all over. It's going to be a very basic floor plan. But anyway, I just mentioned Steve McBee's story just to show you that there's a lot of people with a lot of demand moving into this area. If you get out there on realtor.com or Zillow and you start looking for homes in the Gallatin area, you'll see that inventory is next to nothing. And most of it is just really old crap that ought to be torn down. What's there. Yeah, you see some good homes. Most of them are out by Lake Viking, which is way outside the city. It's actually, Lake Viking is probably about 15 miles away. Even though they have a Gallatin address, they're often listed with Gallatin properties. But those Lake Viking properties are on a resort lake, and they're not part of this market. So I end up saying, don't look at Lake Viking, just look at Gallatin. And again, there's probably a half a dozen properties on there, and most of them are too small, too old, too whatever. But there's just no inventory that the typical family, mom, dad, and a couple of 3 kids can move into. It's just not there. Especially new inventory. There's no subdivisions going in. There's no new product. Excuse me. I see that there's some chats. Okay, those are linked. Okay, good.
Yeah, I put this on.
Okay. So we've talked through inventory. We've talked through inventory. We've talked through infrastructure. We've talked through inventory. We've talked through a case study. Let me start taking you into some of the number specifics of this project. And then if we can't get past that, I'll come back to my back of the napkin. I'll pull it up and we'll walk through it that way. But essentially, we're looking for a partner that wants to have a done-for-you real estate development project. You've got people that are in the fix and flip world, and they want a done-for-you fix and flip. Okay, well, this is kind of a done-for-you real estate development. You can essentially tell all your friends you're a real estate developer and you got a development going up. So what it would look like is this. The acquisition of the property in this particular project would be $300,000. And so what an investor would do is they would put up the $300,000. We would close on the acquisition of the project. And then immediately we would start the process to obtain the acquisition and infrastructure development loan. And so we have a lender standing by to do that with the investor, or if the investor has another lender they'd prefer to use, or if they have their own means that they want to use to structure an infrastructure loan, that's fine too. But the idea was to get an acquisition and development loan so that when that loan closes, the investor gets their $300,000 back out of the proceeds of that loan. That's the first check that the bank cuts, is that $300,000 check back to the investor. And so essentially, the investor has that $300,000 at risk for the amount of time that we're closing on the loan is all. And so if that takes 30 days, great. If it takes 60 days, that's fine too. But somewhere around that time frame, the investor has the 300,000 that they put up to close on the property at risk until then we complete the acquisition and development loan, which then the investor would take that first $300,000 back. And what we would essentially do is offer to pay that investor an annualized rate of 50% against that $300,000 while it's at risk. And so I've got the numbers out there. We can calculate those or show you what those numbers would look like. So that interest, that return, they've got the return of their investment out of the loan proceeds, but they'll get the return on their investment as we split the profits on the back end. But there's a predetermined fixed income calculation. And so it's to pay them a 50% annualized return for that $300,000 while it was at risk, waiting for the loan to close. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're looking for from the investor. And again, we're anticipating that loan to close in 30 to 60 days. I'm actually being very conservative. Our lender can actually do it in less time if you're concerned about how long that money's tied up. But I'm saying 60 days, and that's probably on the outside as far as how long it will take to put that loan together. We're actually going through a mezzanine finance lender who, you know, this is all they do, is this kind of loan. So, you know, they'll know the property, they'll know the project, they'll know the people, they'll meet the investor. The investor stands as the borrower. And so in that process, the borrower, the investor, will get paid 3 points for acquiring the loan. So 3 points on 300, or actually the loan will be, I think if I remember, it'll probably be about, it was originally 835 or something like that, but because we're adding some lots, I think we bumped the loan up to a possible $900,000. So let's just go with that round number. In fact, if you want to just have a number in your head that's easy to calculate, let's go with $1 million. I don't think we'll borrow $1 million, but let's say just if we do, we do. 3 points on that would then be $30,000. So just for making the application, using your credit, going in there and getting that loan, you know, we'll help you with all the paperwork. Like I said, I know the lenders personally and can help with all of that. And so it's just a matter of, I help facilitate it, but it's the investors doing the borrowing. They'll get paid $30,000 for doing that. So that's the second step that we're asking the investor to participate in this done for you real estate development. The third step is that while we're doing the infrastructure and we're selling the lots into these home building projects, the carrying costs on that $1 million loan will then need to be paid monthly, just the interest only. And for that, you're now putting money at risk again, right? Just like the 300,000 was put at risk, you're now putting some cash at risk for paying the interest on that loan. And so whatever that is, it is, but we're estimating that you would be carrying that loan, the investor would be carrying that loan for a year. That's how long we think it'll take to sell off all the lots. So if it takes a year to sell off all the lots, and essentially I'm averaging that, I'm assuming, again, trying to be conservative. Let's say we don't sell our first lot until 6 months, we sell our last lot out there at 18 months, but it averages at the year, at the 12-month mark in terms of interest. And that also is calculating the drawdown on the loan. Obviously, we're not paying interest on the portions of the loan we're not drawing down. So, you know, I'm just guesstimating a year's worth of interest on $1 million loan at 10% is roughly $100,000. Okay, so $100,000 is going to accumulate. It's going to up to a year off roughly, or 18 months. It's going to accumulate up to $1 million, and so you're going to be paying interest on that as it accumulates. And so when we complete the sale of a lot, and if you've been in the development world at all, you understand that as the lots sell, then a portion of that sales price then is allocated back to the lender and pays off, you know, things like the lender's cost, interest costs, obviously, if you're carrying that cost, then you would get your $100,000 back as each lot sells. It would go up. So you'd be carrying that $100,000 for the year as well, or up to $100,000 in total. So, month one, it might be nothing. Month two, you might put $1,000 in. Month three, you might be putting in $10,000, in interest, and so on and so on. Up to a total of $1 million because it's a 10% loan. So at that point, as we sell the lots, then that money that you've carried, that interest you carried, gets repaid to you as a part of that lot sale. And then as a part of that lot sale, there's obviously a profit component that's built into that as well. And so what we've done is we've calculated, again, a fixed income allocation for profit to the investor based on a 50% annualized return. So if you carried, and again, this is just a kind of a gross back of the napkin calculation, but if you carried that $100,000 all year, then we'd be paying you $50,000 for doing so. Okay, so that would be your share of the profits coming out of that. So when you look at it all together, the temporary advance of the $300,000, collecting interest on that, your 3 points, getting that, collecting 50% annualized return on the interest that you're carrying on this infrastructure loan, all told, that makes for a pretty nice little return on that kind of money that you put at risk. Like I said, it's calculated to be a 50% annualized return. So we've done the math for you there. The fourth thing, now those are the three things that have to be done. The fourth thing is that you get to do it if you want to do it. And that is we do a similar type transaction for the homes as they're being built. If you want, A, you want to participate, and B, if the client or the buyer needs to have it done. Toby and James have worked with a lot of people, and Kurt, I'm assuming you're part of that group, I don't know, but where you've kind of helped people buy homes through a rent to own arrangement or something to that effect. And so the fourth thing here that we're offering is basically you get first right of refusal on anybody and everybody that wants to do that arrangement. And so out of the 50 home buyers, we may have people that buy the home and they come in and they got cash. Obviously they don't need or want the help. Okay. And so they pay cash. But we've got other people that will, and I include the people that go in there and can qualify and get a 30-year mortgage or whatever as well in that. They may not need it. When you've got a 30-year mortgage, getting a construction loan is easy to do. And we work through the buyers to do that sort of thing. But the other group of people, and I'm anticipating that because of the niche that we're in, this will be a fairly decent sized group of people. They're going to need some help getting into the house. They might have the down payment or not. They might need some down payment assistance. We can work some things out there if you've ever been involved in that kind of a transaction. And then again, excuse me, they may need help buying the house outright. There's any number of things we can do. And essentially, the structure that I've put together on this is kind of a rinse and repeat structure for anybody who's buying a single family home or doing a subdivision. So we're looking at this as a subdivision, but we can also scale it down on a single family home purchase as well. And so depending on that, this investor would have first right of refusal to do any or all of those that come in that way, which stands to allow you, it allows you to take literally the cash you've made on this deal and do the same thing without investing any more cash. And so that's, I think, an important benefit to outline for people as well. So that's kind of the back of the napkin. Do you have any questions, or do you need me to show you some numbers that actually back that up?
No, I think you did a great job of kind of explaining the program. I understood everything that you said. Follow along. I actually have some experience. I've built out a subdivision before.
Okay, great.
On the commercial,
talking to an expert.
Well, no, it's on the commercial industrial side, and I can definitely tell you doing business in Colorado is very different in terms of working with counties and surprises and delays and challenges and stuff. And also, obviously, I know nothing about Missouri and the market and all that. So I need to obviously have a lot of due diligence to do around those areas, the unknown areas. Obviously, on paper, I get what you're saying, but I need to kind of sit down with. And I'm
Yeah,
assuming
I can
James and
send, I
Toby
can
are-
send you a copy of the city ordinance over the governing this subdivision. I think
Yeah.
you'll laugh.
Yeah, sounds like it. And then I think the other piece that I'm curious about is really the building. You know, you as the builder and how that goes down and experience and knowledge in that whole area. And then
Okay.
the last piece, which is, you know, actually dealing with the buyers and structuring those deals. That's all James and Toby. I don't.
Mhm,
I may be interested, like you said, in rolling that over and investing in those, but
mhm.
I'll go with their, you know, their
Yeah.
recommendations and what they're doing. So I'll stay out of that. But
Well, let me answer a couple of points there. Again, I'll get a copy of the city ordinance over to you, and you're certainly welcome to call the city manager and talk to him about this and see just how it is. But it's pretty basic. It's like 7 or 8 steps, literally,
yeah,
that talk about how to work with the city to make sure that the utilities plug in correctly. And that's it. And so, and then of course, you know, the city does have to go before the city council and approve the project, obviously. But, you know, they have such minimal requirements. I can't imagine there being anything other than a rubber stamped approval after the utilities say, yeah, we can do this.
if it was Colorado, they'd say, you know, run a camera down that sewer line. That's the
Oh, yeah,
pipe,
yeah,
and
yeah,
tear it
yeah.
all out and do it all over again. You know, it's how
No,
they do it.
they're not gonna require any of that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But I will get you the city ordinance, and you can put it up on your wall as the joke of the day. And I will make sure that you can contact the city and answer any questions, ask any questions that you want to ask them. They're really good to work with. In fact, they're bending over backwards to facilitate this development. They want it to go in. It's been sitting there for 50
Sure.
years.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and it's about time.
Get that tax revenue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They want that tax revenue. So anyway, I'll get that to you. Now, about the experience, I've kind of given you my experience in construction and development from a business standpoint. And I got to admit, being totally transparent, I could not pound a straight nail to save my life. Okay. So Kokomo Construction is made up of my partner, who is my brother, and he has been a general contractor for going on 40 years. And so he has built everything from single family homes in his teens all the way up to hospitals, and even I think he did an addition to a zoo in California. So, you know, he's been on the commercial side as well, but he's done mostly single family homes.
Okay.
And
That's
he's done
decent.
he's done that his whole career. And he's managed crews and teams. He's been a manager and a you know, boots on the ground type manager, you know, where he's hiring and training all of the contractors. He does, you know, as a general, he does everything, although he hires the specialists, obviously, that you want to get in, you know, to do your electrical, your plumbing, your HVAC, your other specialty areas. And so, you know, we feel very comfortable that we have the ability to have a team out here. We actually work with some teams that are already here in this area. I've kind of been doing some preliminary recruiting to bring them out. We've got a journeyman electrician that I want to put on the team, and he'll stop subbing and come join our team. So he'll actually be a W-2 employee. I've got a plumber the same way, and some other things. So we're building not just the team to build, but the expertise within the team to build and do all this. And it's a matter now of making sure that we can scale sufficient to, you know, build these homes on a timely basis based on how fast we believe we're going to sell them. And that's going to be the bigger challenge. Not that we can't do it. It's just, it's going to be a challenge when you're scaling that fast.
So based on all the projects that you talked about, you or Kokomo doing, I'm curious why, based on the size of this, what your strategy is for looking for investors. Why aren't you underwriting this yourself?
Basically because we're starting from scratch, just, financially, personally, and that kind of thing. And so this first project will need investors. I've got about 10 more projects like this on the wings, and I might need to probably work with investors for the next 2, maybe 3. And after that, we won't need investors anymore.
Okay.
And Mark, you put earnest money down already for this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we've got skin.
Yeah, earnest money's down. In fact, because we passed the original closing date, I actually converted that earnest money to have it go hard and bought another 30 days of option to buy it with that earnest money. So the seller now has the earnest money in their possession. If I need to do that again to extend it another 30 days, I'll give them, another $1,000 or so, whatever it's going to take to have them be okay with waiting another 30 days.
Got it.
Yeah, not to get too far off track, but you're also doing fix and flips.
Yeah, we're doing fix and
Mhm.
flips on the side, and we've taken the same financing model and just scaled it down so that people can do a little syndication if they want to. We're finding, I guess Toby and James are finding that a lot of people in their network are people that don't have $300,000, for example, to do a subdivision, but they want to get into fix and flip. And so if they've got about $25,000, say, they can do a fix and flip home, where we're able to pick up the home for, $20,000, $25,000, get a fix and flip loan for anywhere from 100 to 120. And then we can turn around and sell that house for, the high 100s or 200s. And, that's affordable housing in this market. In fact, that's pretty nice housing in the Midwest market. In fact, I don't know if I've shared this concept with Toby and James, but I wanted to give them kind of an idea of the significance of the price differences in the Midwest. And so I've challenged some people to do this little test. You go out on Zillow, you go out on realtor.com, and encourage you to do this too, or Trulia, pick your favorite real estate platform, and then put in some specific filters. And here's the filters that I suggest you put on. $250,000 price point, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, garage on an acre. Okay. And then take that filter, that exact same filter, and now go out to the western states. Start with Colorado and then go west and go north and west, all the way to the Pacific coast, state by state. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be a spoiler. I'm going to tell you what you're going to see.
Zero.
You're going to see anywhere from 0
Yeah.
to 3 houses in the entire state available, properties in that state available.
Mobile homes.
Mobile homes. Montana to New Mexico, Colorado, and then go west to Washington, Oregon, and California, state by state. I've done this. I've looked at it there, and I actually did this about 6 months ago. Back then, they averaged about 3 properties per state at those prices. In some of those states, the properties were underpriced because the sellers had no idea what their, it was a FSBO, and they had no idea what it was worth. They thought it was worth 250, and it was probably worth 5.
Yeah.
So now take that same filter and come out to the Midwest, and start with Kansas and Arkansas and Missouri and Iowa and Nebraska, and even into Tennessee, and come around, picking Missouri as the center state, and just pick all your Midwest states around that and run that same filter. And what you're going to see, and you're going to find hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of properties that meet that filter. And so the point that we're seeing, I'm making, is that from a market standpoint, we're seeing the bubble is going to burst out west, if it hasn't already. In fact, I'm noticing that it's bursting as I've talked to people moving out in this area.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, you guys know how to sell real estate. You put your price out there, and you kind of you generate a silent auction, right? Where essentially say, we're going to take all offers, put them in writing. We're going to open them on this date at some point in the future. And everybody just bids that thing up like crazy. I don't know if you've seen some of the humorous videos that they put on YouTube about that, but guys selling an apple and it's the only one, and they're bidding that apple up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that's changing.
yeah, and so that's changing. I've talked to a couple of people who recently moved out here in the last couple of months, and they put the price out there, and they ended up having to come down a little bit, even though because even though they ran it as a kind of a silent auction, people weren't bidding the price. They weren't going up full price anymore, and they weren't bidding the price up at all. And so what that means is, of course, is that bubble's bursting. It's slowing down. Interest rates going up are scaring people off, and so it's moving more and more downward toward a buyer's market. Of course, it's always a buyer's market, but I'm waxing philosophical. But anyway, that's not happening out here, because the people now are coming out here seeing that they can, bring their remote job with them or bring their business with them, because it's not a brick and mortar business or whatever reason, but they have their sources of income. And they're going, let's get out of this craziness in the Western US, and let's go out to the Midwest and buy a house that we can buy for half to a third of what, we can buy out here even now. And so that's what's driving that. And so the issue is that we have pockets of the area that don't have inventory. So even though you could look up, say, for Missouri, for example, and you could find hundreds upon hundreds of properties that fit that description, they're going to be in pockets. And so this particular rural area that we're developing up here doesn't have the pockets of that filter. You look at in that specific sequence of counties, Grundy, Livingston, Davies, Caldwell, which is where a lot of people want to come. They don't have the inventory. They don't have that filter that we're talking about. And so that's why we're looking to build it, because there's a lot of demand in this pocket, but it doesn't have the inventory, particularly, nice newer homes. You can find, 100-year-old homes that are 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, on a cement block foundation or an old rock foundation. That's the original foundation, and the foundation's crumbling and the house is a lean-to, and they'll sell it to you for $10,000. Nobody can live in it, So, it's a tear down and build.
Yeah, quick story. My aunt moved from Aurora, Colorado, probably 20 years ago, and had enough equity. They bought a house just outside of Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what people are wanting to do.
They're basically retired. And that was, they were probably not even in retirement age when they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can sell your home in Denver for $750, $800, whatever, you can come out here and you can replace it in a Kansas City suburb for about $650, $700. So even then you could probably, without scaling down at all, get something, and if you got a lot of equity in that home because of appreciation, then you can almost own it free and clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you got a job or a business that you can take with you, so you're not worried about looking for a job, boom, you're dialed in. If you want something, I'll give you an idea of what some family friends of ours did just this last month. They had a home in American Fork, Utah that they sold for, I think, right around $500. They paid off their mortgage with it, and they had about $200, $250 left over. And so they came out here to Chillicothe, Missouri, and bought I think it was just right around $300,000. The house was twice as big, twice as nice, twice as everything. I mean, it's in a neighborhood where doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs live, right? So it's a really nice neighborhood. They paid about $300,000 for it. So they took their cash out of that they took out of that house in American Fork, made that the down payment. I think their mortgage now is about 50, maybe between 50 and 100. I don't know, but it's not much. And he had his job that he brought with him. He can work from home. And so they just upgraded their home to, you know, one of the nicest homes in the neighborhood. On the other house, they were just, you know, barely squeaking by, and upgraded their lifestyle tremendously. And so that's what we're expecting a lot of people to do,
Yeah.
is be able to
Yeah.
come in, and as long as the house isn't priced too crazily high, and we make it easier for them to buy, they can sell what they've got and feel confident that they can come out here and have a better home and a better lifestyle.
Yeah, it's real interesting to see the whole rotation, I would call it, across the country, right? Because you've got,
Mhm.
since COVID, you know, everybody realizing they can make Zoom calls versus being in an office, or a lot of
Yep.
people, right?
That was one of the blessings of COVID.
Right? And then you've got the people in New York and California, you know, with the sacks of money wanting to get out of those places to go somewhere with quality of life, going out west. And then you've got people like the example you just gave, or James, even your brother, you know, and lots of other people rotating in other ways. So it's just almost like a, you know,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
major
it's
shift.
a shift.
It's a major
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these little rural towns are now becoming bedroom communities of Kansas City, St. Louis, even Chicago. And so, you know, you get the big metropolitan areas out there, and people don't have to live in them anymore. I mean, you could live in this rural community. It's an hour and a half out of Kansas City and 2 hours out of St. Louis, and you can have a job, you know, brick and mortar job out of Kansas City or St. Louis, and literally live out here, and then, you know, go commute to the office once or twice a week at most. You know, and if you're coming from California or New York and you're used to making that kind of a commute, doing it once or twice a week is no big deal. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
And just because we're building an affordable housing neighborhood doesn't mean all the houses, you know, we can get some people in there that want to build a custom house. where we
absolutely.
make-
Some of these lots are definitely suited for custom homes. And, you know, the first people coming in and wanting to, you know, get the pick of the litter, as it were, you know, that may, you know, it's the same kind of people that Steve McBee was selling to, only they'll buy, they don't want the 3 acres. They just want, you know, somebody to come over and manage their yard for them, you know, once a week. And so they want that home, but they want it on a smaller lot. And we have some premium lots that we can sell and put, you know, the McMansion on it if we need to, if they want to, and then do a custom home.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a little bit about the experience, a little bit about the ordinance. I will definitely get that scanned and sent over to you guys so you can have that ordinance. And I believe the contact information for the city is on there. If not, I'll get it and write it down on there, or scan his business card and send that over so you can reach out to him personally if you'd like.
Cool. We'll add that to the page on this project and this recording for anybody else that wants to watch it too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate the opportunity to meet you and talk to you a little bit about this.
Yeah, I appreciate you showing me the opportunity and giving me that napkin review. I'm interested. I'll do some, like I said, due diligence. I have some people to run some things by, and I know you're probably
And
looking to
feel
keep
free.
moving.
Yeah, if you got any other questions or any other documents you'd like me to hunt down for you, if I need to go hunt them down at the county or the city or whatever, just holler and I'll get those to you. I'm very responsive that way, so just holler and I'll get them over to all of you, particularly James and Toby, so that you guys have it in your deck for the next one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Guys, I appreciate it. Appreciate it, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Okay, take care.
Bye now.